family, and you will not be asked to stand alone in a courtroom. And unlike so many campaigns in the past, we've got a number of TDs who are actually standing up in the Dáil on a daily basis opposing this charge. We didn't have that before. The fact that we have it now gives us a huge advantage. I'm going to finish up, friends, just to say at the end there'll be somebody over here collecting up membership. It's €5 to join the campaign. Not joining a campaign doesn't give you any less rights than somebody who joins it. We're just asking for a bit of help for producing the material and that. I'll finish up by saying that this government have tried to strike a real fear into the people with the lies and the misinformation that they've been given out. But if we stand together, if we're united and we're strong, we'll very, very quickly remove that fear. And once that fear is removed from the armoury of this government, they'll have nothing left and we'll win.
Good evening. It's great to see such a good crowd here again, and I for one am surprised at the level of feeling that is actually in the country about how this country is run and about the measures that are being inflicted on the ordinary people on a daily basis. And this particular issue of the household charge has been something for the people to rally around, and it's been one of the first occasions where they can actually have an input and have a say as to whether they decide to pay or not. Now, the debate over this notion that a group of politicians are telling people what to do, I think is a bit unreasonable. First of all, I think it's important that this campaign is non-political, and I'd be very disappointed if politicians use it just to promote their own selves or their own parties. And I think this is a campaign for the people, and it's got to be led by the people. And it isn't going to work unless you organise yourselves in your own communities. I think it's really important that you establish civic groups in your own area and establish a voice for yourselves, because you don't have one in Parliament. They don't represent you, even though technically speaking they're supposed to. You vote every 5 years, you elect your local TVs, they're supposed to go up there and they're supposed to work in the best interest of the ordinary people. Now, I would argue that any government I've seen in the last 30 years has been much better at working in the best interest of big business than working in the interest of the ordinary people. And this campaign is just the start, and I think it's going to give people a different idea about the fact that you actually can have a say, and you don't have to take all the stuff that's been thrown at you. If something is unfair, if your next door neighbour does something to you and you think it's unfair, well, you don't necessarily just put up with it. I mean, more often than not, you're going to deal with it. But sadly, we have been powerless at government level. I mean, we elect the government, and for a long time, whether you like or not what they say and do, you put up with it. But that needs to change, because the politicians of the day, the government of the day, are not going to change the way this country is run. You've got to do it. And the household charge is one of the vehicles of doing so, and it's something to rally around. Now, there's a lot of confusion, I think, about different issues of the household charge campaign, and I think it's important to have clarity. Now, I'm also conscious of the fact that with all the different meetings going on, we tend to repeat ourselves a lot, but I mean, life is like that. As a football manager, if you're in a dressing room every weekend, you do a lot of repeating as well, and you have to say it on a regular basis. But forgive me if you've heard me saying things that I've said before, but to make the points clear, and just to go through, and Seamus has already mentioned some of them, but just to take some of the confusion out of it, I should just go through some of the items again. I mean, for example, the household tax, how much is this? It's actually €100 to register now, and if you don't pay for 12 months, it actually reaches 142 with fines and interest. Right now, the notion that you can be thrown in jail for not paying it, well, that will require a court case, and the judge will have to actually send you to jail for not paying it before it gets to that. And the fact that he hasn't put any of the bankers in jail yet, there's a good chance he won't be doing it. Now, the big argument of the government is that this money is used for your local services. Now, Enda Kenny said only 10 days ago that, do you want water to come out of your tap? There'll be no water coming out of your tap if you don't pay for your local services. Well, they've just taken 173 million from local government. Now, maybe if they want the water to come out of the tap, maybe they might give that back. Because there's the notion that this money, as Seamus has made the point already, this money is going towards paying off debt that you have nothing to do with. We've borrowed money for, partially, there was some money borrowed because we're not making ends meet and we've got to balance our books, which is one argument, and I believe that we do have to make savings in certain areas. Well, one thing we should not be doing is paying the debts of useless banks, and it's costing hundreds of billions before it's over. Anglo alone will cost 89 billion. They're borrowing 31 billion to rescue Anglo and to take care of their bondholders. But they're having to borrow the money, pay the interest on it. They're having to borrow the money to pay the interest, then to pay interest on that again. And a conservative estimate by the economists is putting it at 89 billion before it's sorted. This state can't afford it. The people can't afford it. And the notion that these banks are taken care of, and the only reason that the Irish banks were saved was because of pressure from the ECB, who did not want the Irish banks to collapse, because the Irish banks owe other banks in Europe the money. The Irish banks in total owe other banks over 500 billion euros. Now, they'd like to get that back, and they wouldn't like us to let our useless banks collapse, so we use taxpayers' money to bail them out. And part of this money is your household charge. It is not being used for local services. In Europe, they have house tax and they have water charges. And in my opinion, that's fair enough, because the money goes towards providing local services. And in Italy, for example, if you buy a house and it's going to be your principal residence, you don't pay any stamp duty on it. So you're not paying a house tax straight up. In Ireland, if you bought a house any time in the last 15 years or further back, and for example, if you happen to pay 200,000 for it, you paid a minimum of 12,000 stamp duty. Now, if you took out a mortgage for 25 years, that 12,000 stamp duty becomes 25,000 because of the cost of the money. So if you were paying back your mortgage over 25 years, you were actually paying 1,000 per year towards your stamp duty, if you spread it over 25 years, which is what you have to do with your mortgage. So in actual fact, you are paying serious house tax already if you ever bought a house in this country. And the notion that this is another house tax is rubbish. This is an indirect tax on people who cannot afford to pay it. Now, I've used I've highlighted the issue before, and I should read it out to you. I mean, it actually is.